All right, y'all. This is Tucker Wells. We got Michael Mancuso?
Mancuso, however you want to say it.
Mancuso on the line. And today, guys, we're talking about actually how to land your first job in commercial real estate and how someone, Michael, did it. And so the purpose of this is number one, it's twofold. We want to write kind of a little workbook or a book on how people land a job. And this is going to be a chapter in the book. And so, number one, we want to teach students how other students got the job. And then, number two, we just find that university students keep running into the same issues and problems. How to go about, landing a job, how to go about networking, and what to do to set yourself up for success while you're a student. And so, I want to introduce Michael a little bit before we kind of get started, just so you guys can know how he was recently in your shoes and has just graduated. So, Michael, why don't you give us a quick high level overview of who you are, where you went to school, maybe past internships that you've had, and potential club leadership positions that you've taken on, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, for sure. So, like Tucker said, my name is Michael Mancuso. I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, and then just graduated about a month ago from the University of Alabama. And at Alabama, I majored in econ and finance, and I was a real estate minor. In terms of like how I was involved on campus, I was a member of our Culver House Investment Management Group for about 3 years, where I basically served as an equity research analyst. So we were like researching different publicly traded companies and manage a portfolio of about $1.5 million. And that's kind of how I was introduced into finance, but I ended up leaving that group to help start up our student real estate investment fund this past year, my senior year. And so we had a donation of about $500,000 intended to invest into publicly traded REITs, and then also potentially as limited partners in real estate private equity deals. And in terms of internships that I've had, my real interest in real estate was really sparked when I worked for a guy named Mike Moran the summer after my sophomore year. So Mike, um, he actually started up a company called Capstone in the early 1990s, which he eventually led to be like the leader in the student housing space. So he was developing and acquiring student housing, and he really led that company to become the leader in the student housing space, and ended up retiring in the early 2010s, I think 2012. And when I say retiring, I mean like air quotes, because he retired for about a year, and he was like, I don't really like to golf. I don't like tennis or rafting, anything like that. And so we just came back and started developing and acquiring local spots and in Birmingham, and really doing everything under the sun. He just didn't want to have to go on a plane, didn't want to have to do student housing. And so this is kind of the time period where I got to intern for him, which was really cool because he was really, really experienced and well respected and kind of like a local legend in the area. And I got to kind of shadow him and see holistically the commercial real estate property and a lot of different property types and developments and acquisitions as well. And so from there, I was like, I really like this. I like how relationship driven real estate is, and how much strategy is involved. And from there, I was like, this is what I want to go with. And I ended up going out to Dallas this past summer and interned with Regions Bank and their real estate corporate banking group. So basically, like corporate level lending to REITs, real estate investment trusts, and that was a really good experience too. Kind of got to be in a more corporate setting and learn about some of the main metrics that lenders look at, and learned some of the biggest players in the REIT space as well. And then I had one smaller internship over this past Christmas break with Harbor Realty Services, just kind of like through a family friend, and he's their director of investments, the guy I was interning under, and he kind of helped me with get some underwriting experience and gave me some deals and to underwrite and walk me through his template, and that was a good little experience to talk about over interviews in the new year as well. So that pretty much wraps me up.
So you got three internships. You kind of helped start this investment fund. You're a part of, it looks like, an investment panel where you manage publicly traded portfolios. What are you doing now since you've graduated?
So I'm kind of relaxing. I was in Jackson Hole, Wyoming for this past month. I actually got back yesterday, and I was literally not really doing much other than being outdoors, hiking, rafting, playing pickleball. We played golf a few times, and just got back. And now I'm just kind of chilling. I start working a little over 2 weeks, and just kind of trying to relax until then.
So what is you said working in about 2 weeks? What is the job? Where are you going to? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I took a job with Graystar in their headquarter office in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm going to be working on their investment management platform directly for the Central Region Asset Management team. And like I said, I'll start June 26th.
Cool. All right. So thank you for that introduction. I love how just actively involved you were with Alabama. ACRE right here, Alabama Culver House Real Estate. Is that what it's for?
Close, just throw out the dot in between the A and C. I think you
Hey,
got
let's
it.
go. Let's go. That's why I wore this
Pretty
hat.
close. Pretty
Um,
much the same thing.
yeah, it is. Okay, so it looks like it looks like there's a few steps to landing kind of a top tier job at Greystar. I guess what was some of the most important ones? You mentioned, 3 internships. You mentioned actively participating in club leadership. Um, what was the most important out of all of those, or were they all, of similar importance? And then, not looking at those, what else did you do to set yourself up for success?
So I think the steps that you were just talking about are kind of like stuff that you list on the resume. And
Hmm.
I think like before you even get to a point where you're really utilizing that, one of the most important factors is like how do you get your foot in the door? And I think for me, that was just like constantly having calls set up with different associates with different companies. Like I think for Graystar, I probably talked to like 10 different guys just
Wow.
through mutual connections. And then, I talked to one guy and they'd say, you should talk to so and so. And then from there, just keep expanding. And, did that with other companies as well. And, after doing that for a while, it really helps you get your foot in the door. And then once you have your foot in the door, you kind of have to be prepared with that stuff, like you talked about the internships and the your GPA and the classes you've taken and the clubs you're involved with and leadership positions you have and stuff like that. I guess that's kind of your ammo to be able to impress in interviews. But first of all, it's really important to just be able to connect with people to get your foot in the door. And I think also when you have this call set up and you're talking on a day-to-day basis with people who are actually like in the job that you want, your like ability to be able to conversate and kind of speak the real estate lingo kind of improves incrementally. And I think that's really important as well because I know at least with most of the interviews I had with Graystar and other companies, I really didn't have many technical questions like what's a cap rate or walk me through the income statement of a multifamily property. It really wasn't any of that. It was just like, how did you get interested in real estate? And then talking about internship experiences and stuff like that. So just kind of being able to get your foot in the door, and then having the experiences to impress is what I think is the most important.
Man, that's awesome. I love how you kind of broke that down to what's on the resume and then kind of what isn't on the resume.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where most people who are either listening to this right now, who are about to listen to this, or who potentially could read this in this workbook that we're writing. How did you go about that? Because we talk with a lot of people at Adventures in CRE, and it's like, hey, how do I go about these conversations? I'm scared to reach out. Who do I reach out to? So, can you maybe discuss how you quote unquote got your foot in the door before these internships and stuff?
Yeah, so with Graystar at least, it was really just like I found like one mutual connection, one guy who graduated from Alabama, and he had gone to work there. I think pretty recently. I think he'd only been working there for a month or two when I spoke with him, and he was the first guy I talked to. And then I ended up speaking with another guy who was like he's the cousin of one of my best girlfriends from high school, and I talked to him, and then I talked to his roommates, and then his roommate introduced me to another guy he went to school with, and then from there he introduced me to his roommates. Eventually, I got to the recruiter, and then the recruiter set me up with an interview the next couple weeks after that. And in terms of like how I went about like um, setting up the meeting, I was just kind of like, hey, I'm Michael. I'm really interested in the commercial real estate and specifically the real estate private equity space. Really interested in Greystar. I've applied for a bunch of different positions. Would love to reach out, see how you're liking the job, and if you have any advice as well. And I mean, pretty much every single person I reached out to was really happy to talk with me and understood that I was genuinely interested in getting their advice and hearing their answers to my questions. And pretty much everybody I spoke to, I really enjoyed speaking with, and that kind of solidified with me that this was a place I'd be interested in working.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good. So you first hit up an alumni at the company, and then
Hmm.
asked for more, and he introduced you, and you kind of ran with it. Sounds like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So one of the things that's kind of unique in the real estate space is it's so relationship driven,
Hmm.
people business, and it seems like real estate compared to other industries is people are down to talk to students. I mean, that's how you got into the
Hmm.
business. That's how they probably got into the business. And so I just want to reiterate for the listeners on this call, and I want you to, Michael, I want you to either say you're right or you're wrong, but like most real estate professionals are super happy to talk to students and they're super happy to share their past experience, what they do, answer any questions. Has that proven to be right throughout this process for you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've had a list of probably like 20, 30 plus individuals that I spoke to over the course of trying to get interviews and land a job eventually. And everybody I talked to had great advice and spent 30 minutes plus on the phone or on a Zoom with me. Just kind of let me pick their brain and get to know me for a little bit. And I think like I said, that really helped with me to kind of build up that capability to speak the real estate lingo. I mean, not obviously not like a professional of 10 years, but to be able to at least kind of understand the basic terms and ask some like reasonable questions that are at least in the right direction. Um, and yeah, I mean, like I've talked to you a couple times, and just the fact that Adventures in CRE is a thing kind of speaks to the willingness for industry professionals to help kids in school, kids that are graduating, looking for a job and internships and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to put myself in the shoes of maybe a freshman and sophomore listening to this who may not know what career path they want to go down. I think you mentioned that you're a finance major at first or something like that, but say I'm a sophomore and I'm a finance major, but finance really isn't clicking for me. I'm more relationship based. What's your advice to them? How do they get started in real estate? How can they start growing in real estate? Who can they start talking to? What's like that first step to break into the business? Get your foot in the
Uh, I would say for me it was definitely the internship, and I kind of my first internship with Capstone, Mr. Mike Brown. I kind of lucked out and through a family connection was connected with him, and he kind of just took me on and was almost shadowing him. But I would say real estate's also definitely a really easy space. As like a kid in college should be able to find some kind of part time job or internship. Like I've got several friends that um, worked little property management jobs, and even if property
Mhm.
management is not necessarily where you want to be, I think that's probably a good spot to start at least part time on the side while you're in school to be able to use that as a platform to be able to move into a brokerage or acquisitions type internship or full time job to at least kind of have that initial layer of knowledge and hands on experience. But I think like also real estate is a huge industry, and no matter where you're from, there's probably somebody that you have some kind of connection to that you can speak to and ask for advice or uh, ask if they're willing to take you on as an intern or something like that.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the fact that you got an internship. Sounds like your senior year during winter break.
Yep. So I was still looking for a job, and I wanted to get some like underwriting experience with multifamily properties, and I realized my a really close family friend was a director of investments for Harbor Realty, which is right down the road for me. And I just reached out, and he was like, "Why don't you just come in over the break, and we'll get you some reps?" And that's basically how it happened. And really good experience.
With you being in a leadership role at your real estate investment club, what are some of the biggest hurdles that you think students come up against and may not push forward with?
Um, you wanna? Can you repeat that question real quick?
Yeah, yeah. With you being a leader in your guys' real estate investment club, what are the biggest like hurdles or obstacles that students are faced with that some don't like push forward against?
You mean like kids like not excelling within the program in the real estate fund?
Um, like like more than just real estate fund. You guys, I'm assuming in your real estate fund, y'all are either underwriting deals, talking to professionals. I guess what are obstacles that the students face that they have trouble moving forward with?
Yeah. So to preface, I should probably make it clear that last year's our first year starting up the fund. So, dude, that brought on some hurdles for everybody, regardless. But I think kind of one thing that we tried to really emphasize is like how people kind of considered it a club at first, but really it's more like an investment group and should be kind of taken seriously like a part-time job because you're actually like we're managing $500,000. Our equity investment group manages $1.5 billion. So it should be a serious commitment and not just necessarily like another class or like a basic real estate club where speakers are brought in once a month or something like that. It's really more hands-on and you know desire or requires a good bit of work to be put into and a certain level of like seriousness and commitment. And I think of the kids that I've seen in CIMG, which was the first group I was a part of, the ones who really really took it seriously and put a lot of time into it. Which was by now, I mean, that group's been around for like over 10 years and is in a really really good spot. And so most of the kids do take it really seriously, but those are the same kids that are going to get the investment banking jobs uh, with Goldman and J.P. Morgan and Deutsche Bank and bulge bracket level banks and doing equity research jobs in private equity too. And we kind of tried to make that clear that our student real estate fund could be the same way, and kids can get a lot out of it if they just take it seriously because the experience that um, members of the group will actually get is like really really legitimate and will help in interviews and make your resume stand out against kids that don't have that type of experience. So just kind of like trying to make it clear that that level of commitment is required was a hurdle for me, and then actually having everybody commit was a hurdle for a lot of the other kids in the group.
Well, what I heard you say is like it requires some serious commitment. And right now it's June 2023. We have no idea what's happening with the economy. Interest rates started spiking March 2022. So the fact that you were able to land a top tier job with a top tier owner speaks to the seriousness and commitment that you had in your recruiting process. And so, like, do you feel that finding a job in commercial real estate is kind of similar to your guys' investment fund of it takes a serious commitment to reach out to people, to learn the lingo, to understand, the financials. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, no, I mean definitely. I think like in school, it's definitely hard to like sit down and Monday through Friday like treat your day to day like a 9 to 5 like where you're working every day. So I mean, I went like I said I went to Alabama. I went to football party school. Like, I'm not going to deny that. And I went out a good bit and I had an awesome time in college. But like during the week, I mean, I'd get my stuff done and I'd when I had free time, wasn't really playing a lot of Xbox or watching movies and
Mm.
stuff. And I was setting up calls and like working through the Ventures in CRE modeling course. Working through different guides and reading through different articles and books and stuff that I knew would kind of help me stick out and prepare me when I got to interviews. And I think doing all that work while you're in school sucks, especially like your junior senior year when you want to be spending time with your friends. I'm not saying like you can't spend time with your friends and hang out and party or whatever. I definitely did all of those things, but I definitely think there is a certain level of commitment that you need to have. Yeah, I think there's like a real like sense of awareness that you need to have. Like, how am I going to compete with a kid? Like, if
Yeah.
if me and a kid from that attends Wharton, if our two resumes are lined up and they look pretty similar in terms of like GPA and extracurriculars, like I'm not going to lose 10 out of 10 times. So like you have to have that sense of awareness to realize like I need to go the extra mile to be able to make myself stick out of the pack a little bit.
Yeah, and going the extra mile is what it's all about. And as we've talked over the years, uh, and you're hopping on this today, I can tell that you go the extra mile. So, congrats on landing the job in this hard economy, man. Do you have any other advice or anything else you want to say to potential students watching this?
Um, yeah, I guess like the biggest thing, like I just said, is just having like the sense of awareness and like knowing where you want to go and where you're at, and, like how you're going to achieve that goal. Like I think if you want to go and you want to go work for an elite brokerage firm or private equity firm or consultant or something like that, that you're not really gonna like you're not gonna luck into that job. Like for me, like I just said, like I went to Alabama. Like there's not like a pipeline to many of those top firms that we have, and I hope, hopefully, especially this real estate fund, there will be, and hopefully within the next few years. But you kind of need to know like where you stand and like who you're competing against because these are like really really competitive jobs and there are kids who are taking the modeling courses and that have gotten the really solid internships and have a lot of great connections and have Ivy Leagues and other top name schools on their resume that they're attending and make great grades as well. So if you want to go work at a top place, then you kind of need to be able to figure out what you've done and where you need to go to be able to be competitive for roles like that.
Well, man, it's this series that is helping to prepare people to learn the steps to get to those competitive and top tier roles. So, thank you for jumping on, Michael.
Yes, sir, Tucker. I appreciate you having me. Enjoy talking with you.
Thanks, man. See ya.